Welcome at the School of Business and Economics. I'm Simon Bozar. I'm the Program Coordinator of the Master Learning and Development in Organizations, and I'm very happy to introduce you into our program, Top Rated 2019. Change. Change ahead, a sign that many of you have seen already. It's a sign that indicates that things are changing because of technology that is introduced, because of knowledge that is evolving, because of a globalized world with more and more competition. And an answer to that change of many companies, profit and non-profit companies, is learning and development. Learning and development, continuous workplace learning, adult education to face the continuous change in the environment. And then an important question you can ask is, what are now the drivers for learning and development of employees? You could take a multidisciplinary perspective to answer that question. A first perspective would be the perspective of the economist. He would say, well, it all depends on the money. If you pay people well, and if you make sure that they get a bonus now and then they will perform like you want them to perform. Or another perspective could be the perspective of the psychologist, for example. He would say it all depends on employees' motivation and how you motivate people to learn and develop and do well. For example, do you support them in their autonomy? Do you leave them choices? Do you provide them with structure, and are you involved as a supervisor when employees are working for you? Well, that would be the real answer to making people learn and develop. Or also, psychologists could say it all depends on the culture in which people are working. Are they working in a hugging culture, where people avoid constructive conflict, for example, and only give positive comments to each other, which is not most beneficial for learning? Or are you working in a real learning climate, where people are making errors, but also getting the possibility to learn from those errors? And do they feel psychologically safe in that learning climate? Well, then learning and development might really be happening. Or a third perspective could be the perspective of the educational scientist, who says that if people now really learn and develop, all depends on their practice. How many hours have they been investing in the tasks that they are doing? And did they invest, for example, more than 10,000 hours? Then we might expect them to do very, very well. We expect them to be experts in their field at that point in time. No matter the perspective you take, the role of learning and development is always to make you develop, or to say it with images, to make you unravel your matrushka, or to make you reflect on yourself, look into the mirror, and think about your personal and professional development. Or to make it even more concrete, what is now expected from L&D professionals? L&D professionals are expected to do three big things. On the one hand, they need to be strategic thinkers, meaning that they need to be able to come up with an L&D policy that connects to the organizational strategy. How can we make sure that we realize the strategy of the organization by supporting employees' learning and development? How do we enhance employees' engagement? Another role of an L&D professional is being a developer, because as an L&D professional, you are constantly developing programs, including training, but also informal learning, for example, to prepare the business next generation. And you're also an analyst, because as an L&D professional, you're expected to use the data on learning and development to make sure that even more is learned in the future. For example, you set up an online learning platform and you use that data to design a learning platform that is even better supporting the learning and development of your employees. To make it even more concrete, what are now core issues that we deal with in our master program? I brought you some examples of questions that are central to the program. A first question could be, what are now the costs and benefits of formal education, of training? And how do we have to design our training in order to make sure that it's really effective? Or why do older employees learn differently than their younger colleagues? And are they really learning differently or not? Or another question could be, how much change can a company actually face? Do we have to deal with that change constantly? And are there limits to change? Or what changes are necessary to make sure that we keep on evolving and that we keep on being competitive in comparison to other organizations? Or what is the strategic role of L&D? Another question. And Another question can be, change implies learning, but how do professionals now learn? How do they develop expertise? And is that the same for a team? Is a team learning in the same way? And if we even take a broader perspective, is an organization learning in the same way as a team or an individual is learning? The program looks as follows. There are 6 periods of 7 weeks, except for period 3 and 6. There you're having education in blocks of 3 weeks. And if you look at the first semester, period 1 and 2, then you see that we are providing you with more fact-based courses coming from those different disciplines I have been discussing before. And there is, for example, the courses Organizational Change and Consultancy, and the course Learning and Development. Those are more courses based on organizational studies, on business. But there is also a labor economics course, the course Economics of Labor Markets and Human Capital. And there is a course taking the perspective of the psychologist and the educational scientist, being the course Theories and Models of Learning. More fact-based courses, all looking into learning and development in organizations, but taking those different perspectives. In the second semester, you start with writing your research proposal. You're already prepared for that during the first semester a little bit. How do I have to set up a good research proposal? But in the end, in period 3 in January, you're really finalizing your research proposal and you continue writing on your master thesis during the second semester. In other words, the basis for the thesis is made in period 3 and you continue writing on the master thesis in period 4 and 5 to then finally defend your master thesis in period 6. In parallel to that process, there are 2 courses in the second semester. In period 4, it becomes already a bit more practical, because in period 4 we're focusing on human resource development cases, cases coming from different companies, and those cases are all on learning and development and how do we have to support in a strategic way the learning and development of employees. In period 5, it becomes even more practical, because then you are really going to companies, and the companies are coming here as well, to present you a project, a problem at hand that they are facing, and they are asking you to work on that project during 7 weeks together with a student team. You're going to get academic advice coming from different advisors from the different disciplines, and you are coached by one of our colleagues while you're working on that project, but you're also coached by the company itself. In parallel to this whole program, there is the study coaching trajectory. A study coaching trajectory focusing on your personal and professional development, focusing on the competences central to this program and supporting you in continuously developing your competences. What are your strengths? What are your points for improvement and how to do better, keeping in mind the future job you are aiming for. This is in short what the program is looking like. To be a bit more specific on the courses even, courses are always small-scale courses. You're sitting in groups of 15 students together with a staff member, and you're working on real-time cases or projects. There is a study coaching trajectory, as I just explained, a very unique feature of this program. You will be working on your team working skills, and you are also trained in writing, you're trained in communicating both orally and written, and keeping in mind the different stakeholders you need to communicate with, peers, staff members, or companies. More core features of the Learning and Development program. This is a program that values the community of learners you end up in. Meaning that we are a strong community, a small-scale community of 40 students, but you will work very closely together with staff members and with companies. It's a very international student population you end up with. Students are coming from all over the world, going from Asia to Latin America. And as I said, you will collaborate very closely with a multidisciplinary staff. It is a master, so we also apply a research-based focus, and that research-based focus is then translated into consultancy projects, but there are also workshops given by leaders from different industries. We have company visits in January to give you some context on the program, but also in September to prepare you better for the future job you are aiming at and to give you some clear image on what a future job might look like. There are research lunches with staff members, and there's also the thesis internship program. If you like, you can write your thesis in a company during 2 days a week. You're getting an idea of how the company works, and at the same time you're working on your master thesis. Some practical information then. What about student admissions? We value motivation letters. We want to know why you're interested in this program and why you think learning and development is really your cup of tea. And we are looking for some evidence on some core competences. Competences you need to do well in this program. It concerns analytical skills, academic writing skills, and statistics and research skills. And you can come up with evidence in the form of a GMAT, but that is not necessary. Also, papers or a bachelor thesis can be very good pieces of evidence. A small commercial break then. Know that if you're choosing for our program, that you're choosing for a #1 program, in that sense that we have been the #1 in our discipline this year, but we have been the #1 in the last 8 years already in our discipline. And it becomes even better. We are the highest ranked master at Maastricht University for the moment, and we are even in the top 5 across disciplines in the Netherlands, so across all masters in the Netherlands. Students have been evaluating us, and accreditations, taking those evaluations together of accreditation and students, we ended up with a 9.1 last year. Very proud of that result. Alumni careers then. If you study this program, you also want to know, what can I do with this program? Many of our graduates end up in consultancy roles. I think 50% of them is going into consultancy. Another 50% ends up in human resource development roles in different kind of companies, both profit and non-profit organizations. Typical functions they have are learning and development specialist, learning and development trainee, chief learning officer, talent developer, but also recruiters are sometimes well delivered by this program. On the slide you see some of the companies graduates are working in. So then the only thing that rests me to do is asking you, what about you? Are you interested in innovation and change? Do you have a deeply interest in the development of people, and do you have good interpersonal skills? Do you enjoy teamwork, and do you have a healthy academic curiosity? Well, then I think this is your program. If you need more information, check our website, learninganddevelopment.nl, or you can simply send us an email with more questions. My email address is on the slide. Thank you very much for your attention.